this is going to be my last like official video of Pride. When Pride began, I was like, oh, I am going to film 2 videos a week, or I'm going to put out 2 videos a week, I should say. I was like, I'm going to be so organized. It's going to be great. I'm going to make so much content for Pride. And then I was in the middle of a move, and then I got done and I was like, I don't have the energy. Also, summer is happening. It's too damn hot to do anything. I really want to talk about Madeline Ashton. I feel like there's going to be so many people who would not get that reference if I left it in, and that breaks my heart. If you have not seen Death Becomes Her, highly, highly, highly recommend. 10 out of 10. It's an amazing movie if you don't get that reference. Like, but there's this character, which is played by Goldie Hawn, who is like, you know, had to go into therapy because she is like obsessed with this woman who stole her. I don't want to give it away. It's a whole big thing, but she does this thing where she's like, I would like to talk about Madeline Ashton. It's like this woman she's obsessed with, basically. Could be lesbian camp if you wanted it to be, but yeah, it's such a good movie. I want to talk about the joy of lesbianism. Because, right, I was thinking about this the other day, and obviously, like, all of my videos are essentially about this subject, right? But I was thinking the other day, and I was like, you know, as someone who has come out many, many a time, as someone who has at least come out 4 times, I really do feel... And I've probably said this before in other videos, but I wanted to like make a dedicated video to this. I really feel connected to my lesbian identity in a way that I don't think I've ever felt with any of my identities before. Like for me, when I came out the very, very first time, let's go back to the beginning when I was like 13 is when I realized I was gay, but I wasn't, you know, that was such a different time in the world in terms of like social media. So there really wasn't, you know, the way to find community that there is today. And I wonder if that played a part in why, you know, but I Facebook existed, MySpace existed at that time. So there were some social media sites, but I really just didn't, I don't know if I was too afraid because I was so young, but I just didn't really feel connected to it in any like proper way. And then when I came out as trans, you know, that was certainly the era of YouTube because YouTubers helped me, like Cat Black helped me realize I was trans. And I felt more of a chance to, you know, there was more of a social media presence. And there was also at that point, I found there was like a forum. Back in the day, you know, a lot of trans groups existed as like online forums. So, I mean, there was that, but I was always, it was another thing. I was too afraid to actually, you know, go on there and interact with someone and like potentially make friends. I was just like, oh no, I'm way too scared. I don't know. And I don't know why. I was just always like so afraid that like, what if people don't like me or whatever? I don't know. I don't know what my reasoning was, but I was just always so terrified of like trying to build that community for myself. And so I just didn't have one. And I think that's really a lot my own fault. Like I said, I just didn't know how to build that community. For a long, long time, I just didn't feel like I really had that community. And I didn't, you know, I also didn't search for the community really because I was too scared. But when I came out as a lesbian, for whatever reason, I don't know why. I just felt, maybe it was Tumblr, maybe it was I was older, you know, so many different things so many different factors that kind of played into it all together. But I felt like, okay, I can do this. I can be a part of the community and really like step into the community. And I know that's not true for everyone. Not everyone feels accepted the way I do in the community, and not everyone is accepted in the way that I am in the community for a lot of various reasons. I do want to speak up about the fact that, you know, it's not okay that a lot of people feel left out because of, you know, let's be honest, racism. You know, I don't think that's acceptable. I don't think that that's right that people feel left out because, you know, they feel like, well, you know, you don't include people like me. I think that's wrong because a lot of these spaces cater to thin people, cater to cis people, cater to white people. So there's a lot of catering going on to certain groups, and I hate that. And I feel, you know, especially the cis and thin aspect of it, I do feel that. So, like, you know, not that they're comparable at all, because they're not. It is unfortunate that there are some people who don't feel as connected to our community and don't feel as welcomed because of those things. So it is hard to talk about this, because I on the one hand do want to celebrate my own, you know, experiences and my excitement, but I also feel like I do have some responsibility to discuss the fact that this is not a universal experience, even though it should be. And I want to talk about that. It is important that I say, like, we, especially as white people and white lesbians, we need to take the initiative to make people feel more comfortable. We need to take that initiative, because it's not easy being in a space when, you know, the people you see celebrated don't look like you. That's not, you know, as I can say that just from my own experience, you know, as someone who is trans and as someone who is bigger, it is not easy, you know, being in a community when the people you see celebrated are skinny and cis. And so if you're not that, you're like, oh boy, should I really be here? And the answer is yes. We have to take that initiative to make people feel welcome. We have to take that initiative to make people feel included. At the end of the day, that is my feeling about that. You have to take the initiative to make people feel included and make people feel like you are welcome here and that you are seen and you are valuable and all of those things. Because it's one thing to say, well, everyone's welcome, everyone's included. But if you don't actually take the time to make people feel included and make people feel valued and seen and all of that, then, you know, it doesn't really mean much. And I think we all bear that responsibility. And because I want people to feel included, I want people to feel like this is a community that is for me. When I was first coming out, and this is not related to anything, this is just my own experience when I was first coming out, I just could not within myself. I was too scared to actually try and make friends with people and actually try and talk to people. And even now, sometimes I'm kind of like, you know, I don't know. I don't want to come off as too pushy. So there's always like that back and forth of like, you know, do I talk to this person? Do I just, you know, let them talk to me? What do I do? Why did I stop using this palette? It's so, I mean, look at this glitter. This is incredible glitters. Why did I stop using this palette? I'm so sorry, Meatball. I'm such a huge fan and I stopped using your palette for some reason. Do I want to do, okay, so why am I asking you as if you can tell me? I was like, should I do orange on this side and pink the middle again? Or should I do pink and then orange? I don't know. I think I'm just going to do orange and pink like I was doing. I just want everyone to feel included is the point of this video. And I hope that I'm somewhat successful in that. I'd like to say I believe I'm entirely successful. I think there's always going to be room for improvement when it comes to including everyone, because you're always going to have to recognize that, you know, maybe you're doing something that's not as inclusive for everyone. So you have to adjust and reevaluate. And that requires you to look at how you do things. What I was trying to get at, though, specifically talking about my own story and talking about like my experience with feeling as comfortable, does kind of also lead me to think like, oh, you know, considering I didn't feel as connected to those other identities, maybe they weren't as meaningful or something. I don't know. You know, again, I don't know what specifically it was that made me feel not connected. You know, but I remember when I was a teenager feeling very, very connected to identifying as gay that first time, especially when it's very, very fresh and new and everything feels like very, very important. I remember feeling very connected to that. I don't know. I didn't feel like I had the community that in a way I do now. And again, I think that's partly my own fault because I didn't make an effort to have the community because kind of thought I could just do everything on my own. That's another thing too, is like when this was also the time that I was, you know, exploring Wicca back in those days. So I was feeling very that, you know, vibe. And I wasn't really connected to that community either because I was just really, one thing I'm learning about myself in this video, So I just had a lot of times where I just wanted to go it on my own. And I don't know why I was like that. I don't know why I felt this need to do everything myself. And like, oh, I don't need anyone to agree with me. I don't need the community. I don't need this, you know, this or this or this. Why was I like that? Why was I such this person who felt like I had to go everything alone? And it's very melodramatic. Let's say that. It's very, very melodramatic, because I really felt like I had to go everything alone. Even though like the internet existed. I think I was on Tumblr as of 2009, which would have been 2009 would have been my junior year of high school. So I was on Tumblr as far back as then, and I still didn't really have what community was I a part of on Tumblr at that point in my life? I think, if I recall correctly, I think in 2009 was my Glee phase. Do not at me. I went through a bunch of different communities on Tumblr. Glee was one of them. Redacted was one of them. Supernatural was one of them. Redacted again. And now I'm really just kind of fandomless because Redacted kind of ruined things for me. But I will say, this actually really looks good. I gotta say. This worked out nicely. But like, I don't know. I didn't really feel like I was necessarily a part of the community at large until much, much later. And again, that was more my doing, I was too scared. I remember in the beginning of transitioning, I was so terrified of even Googling the word because I was afraid apparently that someone would see it and question me or something. I don't even know what I was even afraid of at that point in my life. I was so scared of even Googling the word. What does this mean about me if I am this thing? And so like, I didn't even want to Google it. I had to I think put Google on incognito mode so I could look up YouTube and look up trans YouTubers. And that's how I came across Cat Black for the first time. And that's when I really felt like, oh, okay, this is a thing. And it really solidified for me watching her videos. I really felt like, oh, okay, this is who I am. And even then I was scared, and I don't think I ever commented on her videos in the beginning. I don't think I ever I think I subscribed. I don't think I was like that person, but it really, she really changed it for me as far as me realizing, oh, okay, this is who I am. This is what it is. This is what I'm feeling. And mind you, this was almost a decade ago at this point. So, in some ways, we've gotten better. In some ways, not so much. So it's complicated. I've seen the pendulum swing both ways. I don't regret it at all. I'm not gonna go back. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm not who I am just to, appease people. That's not gonna happen. I love myself too much at this point, And that's the other thing is loving yourself has really changed everything for me. Being able to transition meant loving myself. If I could tell the governor of my great state anything, and have him actually listen, because let's face it, I'm sure people have spoken to him and he's just not listening. That's what the fuck he's doing. I would say I love myself as who I am now. And that was not something I could say before. I'm a happier person in a way that I did not think was possible as a young person. I've talked about that in so many videos, and the reason I talk about that is because I know how miserable it can be to try to not be yourself. And every story you hear, almost every story, so many stories you hear about LGBT people, in their youth especially, there is this thread of I tried to hide who I was, it made me miserable, I was forced to hide who I was by this situation or that situation, and it made me miserable. And I just don't understand how you could constantly hear this and say, well, I don't really care. You should have to hide yourself because it makes me uncomfortable. That's just so wild to me and so disgusting to me. And I've tried not to talk about everything that's going on right now because I find very, very upsetting. I find it very, very exhausting. I want so badly for my channel to be a positive space. I want so badly for my channel to be a space where you can kind of forget about the world almost. I really do. I really want it to be a space where you can just share trans lesbian joy. That is what I want. And that is what I try to do here. But I would be remiss if I didn't kind of acknowledge that that's not something everyone can have, and that it's a really, really difficult, I feel like I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place in this situation, because it's like, if I don't talk about these things, then I feel like I'm doing a disservice to my community. But if I do talk about these things, I'm doing myself a disservice too, because it's like, how much, I mean, truly too, I will say this. I do kind of feel like at a certain point, the people who are going to follow me more than likely are going to be people who already agree. I would hope agree with trans issues, and I would hope agree with the LGBT experience or whatever. I don't imagine there are lots of people following me who, at least not at this stage, maybe as I get bigger, but at least at this stage, I don't imagine there are a lot of people following me who are, hate following me, or who don't like trans and gay people or whatever. I don't know why you would follow someone like me at that point because of what I talk about, but maybe, who knows? So I kind of feel like talking about these issues, it's almost like we're talking about it to each other. You know what's going on. If you are a part of the LGBT community, even if you're not a part of the LGBT community, you know what's going on. It's no one's unaware. Unless you just woke up like Rip Van Winkle, you know what's going on right now in the world. You know a lot of what's happening, especially for, LGBTQ people. So I feel like talking about those issues almost feels like, it's very much preaching to the choir, because we all know what's going on. We all agree it's fucked up. It's just like, we know what's going on. We know what time it is, what time it's been, unfortunately. And there are still a lot of things even within our community that we have to work on. Like I was saying, we have to work on making everyone feel included. I do firmly believe that. We also have to work on including people who are bi, because there's a lot of biphobia even in the community, even to this day. So we have a lot of work we can do when it comes to, inclusion. As much as we would like to believe that, being LGBT means we are inclusive of everyone, that's not always the case. But we can work on that. That's something we can do. And when I say we, I do include myself, because I am not perfect. I will never pretend that I am perfect on all of these issues, and I never make mistakes on anything. I want to always try and include as many experiences and make everyone feel like they are welcome and adored, because that is the point. To me, especially, and when I say butches and studs, I do truly mean that, because I know, and I'm not trying to tack studs on as an afterthought. I'm really not, because to me they are just as important as butches, and just as lovable, and just as amazing. Oh, that does make such a difference. Why do I not do lashes? Because I'm lazy. Final thoughts for this video. More so than other videos, I have been all over the place with this video, and I don't know if I even really got to the crux of talking about specifically the joy that I feel as a lesbian, and the joy that I feel since I've come out. I mean, I guess that's something I've talked about many, many times at this point. I've kind of made all of my videos really touch on that, and that is kind of what I think my channel is and is meant to be for me, is about joy, and is about my specific joy as a trans lesbian, because I think they're important things to talk about. So many of our queer ancestors fought a very, very long time for us to have what we have now. And so it's important to keep fighting, of course. It's essential, it's necessary. I feel like it's also important and necessary to have joy and have times where you're not always thinking about this. I'm so, so grateful for where I am, and I'm so, so grateful for the community that I have. I feel personally, for me, very, very blessed and very, very thankful. And I know that not everyone is going to feel the same way that I do, because not everyone feels included. If you've somehow made it to the end of this video and you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give me a thumbs up, comment down below. I don't know what you should comment, but comment anyway. And of course, subscribe to this channel, or if you want to see more content where I slap on makeup and talk about some trans lesbian shit. And of course, subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/NarcissaDeVille, where I talk about specialty, individualized topics that I wouldn't talk about here. Yeah, tell me what you think, what you'd want to see on Patreon. I know what I enjoy watching on Patreon and from people I patronize. That sounds bad. People I am patrons of. I know what I like to watch with their content, but I'd love to hear what you want to see from me. Thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, stay devilish. I really want to make an effort when I'm making videos, not always just wear like cutesy dresses. Not that the dresses that I buy are like so super expensive or fancy or anything like that, but I was just thinking the other day, I kind of want to do some videos where I don't always want to be wearing dresses. Sometimes I want to just wear like a t-shirt, because I feel like it's important to say that you don't have to look a certain way to be a femme. Obviously, like, the whole point of this channel is doing makeup and talking about lesbian shit and femme shit and all of that. But I feel as though it is important that I try and represent the fact every so often that you don't have to dress a certain way in order to be a femme. You don't have to wear earrings to be a femme. You don't have to have nails or done nails even to be a femme. You don't have to have long hair or short hair or whatever kind of hair to be femme. You don't have to wear makeup to be a femme. I always want to say those things because I want other femmes who maybe don't fit the typical femme aesthetic to know that they are also included. And I will say, I do know that a lot of femmes that are kind of given a lot of attention, especially online, are, you know, thinner femmes and white femmes and cis femmes. So I want to represent as someone who is not a thin femme, who is not a cis femme. I want to represent as someone who is, you know, a fat girl and a trans girl and who is femme and who, you know, yes, I like wearing dresses. I love wearing makeup. But I'll be honest with you, I really only do it for videos because I'm not going anywhere. I've said this before, I think. I would love to wear makeup for a partner, for like a date, or just going out anywhere. I would love to wear makeup for that because I love putting on makeup. I love playing in makeup. I have so much fun with all of this, but I don't often do it. I feel as though it is important to also talk about the fact that when I wear these things, when I, you know, put on, you know, funky earrings and headbands and long hair and, you know, all of these things that I do because that's like my drag and that's how I feel, you know, I want to present myself, especially in videos. I do feel like there is this idea that like, this is what a femme has to look like. You have to wear a dress. You have to have longer hair. Femmes can't have short hair. You know, you have to have nails on. You have to wear makeup to the tens. You know, all of these things. You have to, you know, wear lashes, which I'm not even doing. But, you know, all of these things that I feel like it is kind of an expectation for femmes to do. So I personally really do want to make an effort to say, I am not, you know, I'm not always going to do those things. I'm not always going to wear a dress. I love wearing dresses, but I don't feel like that's necessary. I feel like you can be femme and just be in a t-shirt, and it doesn't even have to be pink. I happen to love the color pink, but I love other colors too. And I own clothing in other colors. So I'm not just going to always be wearing pink. I'm not just going to always be wearing light colors. You know, I love doing my eyeshadow in dark green and blue. That look that I did that was like blue and gold was one of my favorite looks I've ever done for myself. I just want to make a more conscious effort, like I said, to represent that femmes don't have to look a certain way. You know, you don't have to wear makeup. You don't have to do glam makeup, even if you're going to wear makeup. You know, you don't have to do any specific thing to be a femme. You know what being a femme means to you, and no one else should tell you what that means. Really, truly, deep down in my soul, beyond even just being femme, I am just a drag queen. Like, deep down in my soul, that is what I am. And so I like to be the center of attention. I like to be dramatic. Obviously, you've seen these videos by now. You know that I'm a little bit dramatic, maybe. I don't know. Oh, God. Oh, all right. Turn off the cameras. We're done. I already did my sign off, but until next time, stay devilish. I cannot with myself.